Hi, this is Taryn Lupo, and welcome back to Pirates of Savannah, Chapter 7. Please check the link below if you're interested in actually buying a commercial-free version of this, or maybe even buying the ebook. If not, just enjoy the show.
Chapter 7, Angry Lobsterbacks and Tomochichi. The flirtation of the young ladies entertained their line of quarters. Savannah's socialites would have been horribly offended by this vulgar display, but they would never be seen in this section of town, especially at night. Torches were lit by nearby patrons who sat in their yards to enjoy the music. Mr. Loper was doing well tonight as his violin case glittered with silver in the torchlight. All was going pleasantly until the crowd parted and became uneasy when a group of redcoats marched in. The music stopped and the crowd began to drift away into the darkness. "Don't stop on my account," the commander spouted sarcastically. "Go on, Mr. Loper. Play that Irish noise that you keep trying to pass off as German. Please continue." Mr. Loper picked up his fiddle and peeped. "Of course, Commander Kingsley." The tall officer wore a formal commander's uniform everywhere. He had a collection of wigs which he changed daily and wore like an arrogant rooster. He smiled slyly to the crowd and warned, Yes, everybody stay. I would consider it a personal insult if one soul left this party on my account." The crowd held their ground in a hushed uneasiness, keeping their distance. Archibald grabbed Patrick's hand and pulled the confused blacksmith away. "Archibald," a condescending voice rang out, "who is your new lover you lead into the dark?" A shiver shot up Archibald's back as he froze in his tracks. He spent most of his time staying invisible when the Lobsterbacks came into sight. He knew he would lead a longer and happier life the more he could avoid the king's government. Slowly turning, he dropped Patrick's hand. "This is my new indenturee, Patrick Willis." Archibald reluctantly surrendered. "Patrick, eh? Strange. You don't look like a filthy Irishman," the commander observed. Patrick replied, "Not Irish. I was named after my mother. Her name be Patricia." "Ah, that would explain your feminine hair and your build now," Kingsley mocked. He turned to another redcoat and mused. "Sergeant Luther, do you think this Mr. Patricia here fancies himself men?" "Course, Commander. He looks like he is no stranger to livestock, either," Sergeant Luther replied. "Daddy, it's time for us to be escorted home," Heather injected. She looked worried. "Mariana has to be home now." "I'll escort her home, Freeman," Commander Kingsley offered as he leered wantingly at her. "No, I promised her father I would escort her home, and we are just leaving," Archibald stated as he began to herd the young women away. "Perhaps, then," Kingsley laughed, "I'll have to come to her father and court her at home." The three young women and the blacksmiths quickly slipped into the night as the commander was asking them to stay. "That fucking bastard!" Prudence cussed. "I want to run him through with a knitting needle one day." "Let's just retire back to my house overnight until we know we're all safe," Archibald commanded. When the families returned to the Freeman home, the ladies were hurried inside. Marian demanded, "Good Lord, what is all this haste you bring into this home?" "Damn lobsterback commander making eyes at these ladies. You need to keep them inside and be on the ready," Archibald ordered his wife. The blacksmith went into the shed and closed the door. Clanging and clamoring rang out until finally the door swung open. He returned now, brandishing a firelock, a large axe, a broadsword, and a thin wooden box. He laid the box on the stump and carefully opened it. The box was lined with deerskin hide and contained two gun-shaped recesses. In the recesses sat two dueling flintlock pistols with a bag of shot and a ball caster. "Lads, you remember I taught you how to use these?" Archibald asked his sons. "Keep it clandestine until you're up close and personal." The two boys nodded obediently as their father continued. "Now check the flint and prime the flash pan with this powder. I want those Queen Anne's primed and ready, lads." Maximilian and Amos checked their flint and rammed their muzzles. They finished priming while Archibald got his musket ready. The blacksmith then tied on his sword and handed Patrick an axe, in warning, "I hope you know how to swing that thing. Aim for the neck. You only get one chance, so keep your aim true." Patrick had never been in a fight with weapons before in his life, and was now panicking. His hands shook and the axe vibrated with fright. The master blacksmith quickly noticed Patrick's nervousness and thought an errand would distract him from his fear. He then pulled a large bag from his coat and instructed, "Go arm the women." Patrick took the heavy bag into the house and emptied its contents on the stone table. 5 Scottish dirks played across the table. Each of the women took one, and Mariana took 2. They practiced thrusting into the air. "Aim for the leaders," Mariana encouraged. "Leaders?" Heather questioned. "The neck veins. Where did you say you're from again?" Mariana questioned. The 3 friends nervously giggled. The matriarch then shot them an intense gaze to remind them of the seriousness of the trouble coming. Patrick returned from arming the women. The boys were directed to watch the front yard as the men hunkered down in the backyard under the dogwood. Archibald and Patrick doused their torches and cautiously scanned the darkness for hours. Aside from the chirping of frogs and locusts, the camp grew eerily silent. Confident the threat had passed, both men fell asleep under the dogwood tree in the early hours of the morning. "Aye, at least you still sleep under a tree like a proper Scot." A booming Scottish voice woke the men. "Damn, lad, I damn near burned you down with my rifle, waking me like such," Archibald replied to the kilted man with the Scottish brogue. Heather came running from the house and threw herself around the kilted man. "Uncle William, it's been so long." "I see you be carrying a proper dagger, lass. This makes an old man proud." Uncle William smiled. "Maybe we'd make you into a proper Scottish woman soon enough." Behind the large, bearded, kilted man, a mule-drawn wagon was parked. William grabbed Archibald and led him to the wagon, speaking a combination of Scottish English and Gaelic. The wigged blacksmith grew irate and shook his fist at William. "What the hell are they talking about?" Patrick asked Heather. "William told Father he's been gelded because he no longer wears his kilt, and he speaks in English tongue," Heather responded with a smile. Archibald returned speaking English and asked, "William, are you just going to keep insulting me, or are you here to buy some nails?" William roared with laughter. "Both. Darien is booming with growth, and we can't keep up the demand for timber there. We are building sawmills to handle the yellow pine and cypress. Check out all the wood in the cart. We're having a good harvest. When are you finally going to join your kinfolk and come to Darien, brother? You won't have to be sneaking around and pretending you're English." Archibald's eyes lit up with fire as he mumbled, in angry, hushed tones, "I reminded you to hold your tongue about my family life." William laughed. Oh, your Scottish blood is flowing. You are still alive in there." "How many nails are you buying, you drunk?" "All you've got, of course." "And I need some other provisions," the kilted man asked in a whisper. "I'm all out of other provisions, but I can make some in 2 weeks' time," the blacksmith offered. "Aye, I'll take that. I'll pay you after inspection." A barrel of nails was loaded on William's cart, and then the giant Scot tossed Archibald a bag of silver, reminding, "Be back in 2 weeks, Archibald Mackintosh." Archibald replied with angry Gaelic curses as William rode off. "All right, family, unload the weapons," Mr. Freeman instructed. "I think the danger's past. Patrick, I need you to escort the ladies back to their homes and explain to their fathers why they stayed the night. If they feel you not be trusted, tell them to come see me." Patrick walked the ladies to their houses and watched as each were met with angry fathers. Patrick explained what had transpired, but it was not well received. On the walk home, he noticed the Robin sailing off to sea. Patrick wondered why they had left so early. Captain Gibbons' crew already hated him. Surely cutting their leave so short would increase the captain's chances of not making it back to England. Good riddance to the whole lot, he thought. 5 months had passed, and Patrick welcomed the fall air. Savannah was very beautiful in the fall, and it was a stark contrast to the filthy, dark, gloomy city of London. After living so long, wasting away in a disgusting dungeon, he now took time to appreciate the simple blessings in life. He sat for hours staring at seabirds he had never seen. His favorite was a black bird that looked like a large gull. The bird would skim across the ocean with its bottom orange bill slicing into the water. When the bird's lower bill hit a fish near the surface, it would snap it up and fly off, never losing its balance. He also grew to respect the strange pelicans and their fantastically awkward hunting skills. Most of the harvest were now coming in, and the blacksmith's apprentice could see all the rice fields surrounding the town being prepared for winter. It was a bountiful harvest this year, and he found himself falling in love with Prudence's cornbreads. His scars on his face were softening over the months. He worked long hours, but had quickly grown skilled at making nails, hinges, locks, and various tools. He was proud of his Scottish dirk that Archibald had showed him how to make. The blade was well balanced and true, but a bit longer than a traditional Scottish knife. He had even grown bold enough to wear it as he traveled around Savannah. The British troops gave him a curious eye, but left him to his own devices. Patrick had quickly grown close to the Freeman family. He was especially enthralled with Heather and found himself unable to focus on any thought in her presence. She even caught him staring at her voluptuous breast while she was serving him dinner. He was horribly embarrassed, but she just smiled. She seemed to enjoy his discomfort. Archibald was like his father he so badly missed. He convinced his employer to help him send a letter back to London to his family, explaining to them that he was alive and well in the colonies. Both men knew it had little hope of ever finding its mark, but it was written and sent despite the chances of making it home. Tension with the British troops had eased some since Commander Kingsley and Sergeant Luther had been deployed to fight skirmishes with the Spanish down south, at least until the searches started. Patrick had still never seen the infamous James Oglethorpe in town. But the young blacksmith heard he was infuriated because somebody dared to steal his imported winder they used to spin the silk cocoons raised in his beloved trustee's garden. All his silk cocoons would now just go to waste, like most of the rest of the garden. He ordered a town search, and his troops tossed all the colonists' homes. Strange men rifled through wives' unmentionables, supposedly searching for something the size of a cannon. This created a hornet's nest of animosity from the common folk toward the military. He also saw Isaac occasionally in the morning buying a special kind of bread from Mariana. Mariana informed Patrick that a Jewish dictate forbid him from eating bread with yeast in it. She did not understand what the Jewish God had against yeast, but she baked the flatbread and was happy for the extra money to be made for the unusual bread. Patrick loved the new clothes that Prudence had delivered to him. He had never had anything custom made for him. He had been washing them every 3 days because of the excessive sweating. But Savannah's heat was breaking a little, and he only had to wash his clothes every 10 days now. He desperately did not want the peasant bloodstains on the thighs of his brand-new outfit. The Freemans made jest of his excessive washing. God forbid, 2 times a week. The indenture took the jokes in stride, though. He spent so many years living in the putrid squalor of the debtor's prison that he took any chance he had to clean himself. Patrick washed himself every Sunday while most of the town was at church. Oddly, the Freemans never attended the services held in Johnson Square. One day he thought he might ask why, but he loved the alone time he was given and frankly did not care. Patrick was quickly realizing Savannah was like a huge melting pot. It was made of British, Irish, Scottish, African, Redskin, German, Polish, Portuguese, and a collection of stragglers from all over Europe. This made the religious worship an interesting mix. So many beliefs all in one place, yet most people were tolerant. Patrick was also combining the gossip from different criers, as well as the news from all over the colonies. He was told nothing of Savannah back on the Robin, and was finally understanding his new environment. He reasoned many immigrants were promised freedom and escape from the iron fist of the king. To a degree, they were indeed freer. They were allowed to own land, and the tax burden was much less than England. Some families were already creating wealth quickly, which would have been impossible back overseas. Some things had not changed at all, though. Colonists were still subjects of the king, and his soldiers could do anything they wanted to the colonists without fear of recourse. Patrick believed the allure of power the government offered attracted the worst kind of people. Most all the soldiers were men following power-hungry politicians without question. The soldiers who disobeyed found themselves victim to mortal consequences. As a result, the worst of the worst rose to positions of power. The further up the ranks, the more corrupt and touched in the mind with power they had become. Horrible atrocities would befall those who did not accept this situation. Patrick also discovered that people took dangerous risks anyway. Behind closed doors, words of freedom and personal sovereignty were spoken with whispers. He even stumbled upon an entire underground network of people and businesses that worked around Oglethorpe's rule. A disgruntled disobedience was in the wind. This morning, in early October 1739, Patrick woke to a sound of a ruckus. Heather was pounding on the shed door, shouting, "Wake up!" She informed Patrick that Oglethorpe had commanded that the entire town attend his Savage's consort's service that day. "If you had not heard, Tomochichi and his Savages are doing some heathen ceremony for Oglethorpe today. Be ready to join the family as we stop work and march ourselves down to Percival Square to console poor Oglethorpe's feelings." The family adorned their most formal outfits and started to walk to Percival Square. While walking, Archibald stated to Marion, "We should have gone anyway. I was fond of Tomochichi. I resent being ordered around like a mule." He kicked at the dirt in the road. "I think it'd soon be time to really think about joining our kin in Darien." Marion shushed him and warned, "Let's not discuss this now, with so many red ears around." The family turned the corner to view a huge crowd surrounding the square. The entire Yamacraw tribe attended in full dress. Even though Tomochichi had a falling out with the Creek tribe, many Creeks still attended out of respect. Putting their differences aside, the Creek and Yamacraw met each other with traditional strong handshakes. The body of Tomochichi had been honored with a full military parade earlier, and now sat in the center of Percival Square on a horse-drawn cart. Patrick was taken back at seeing so many savages in one place. They were in full ceremonial dress. Huge headdresses, bright colors, fur, and feathers were everywhere. Many warriors were there. They had their hair cropped, with a long central lock representing the traditional style of the Creek Indian. The warriors were also covered with ritual tattoos and pierced earlobes. He sensed the gravity of the event, and as far as he knew, no white man had ever witnessed the secret Creek Indian burial ceremonies. Heather leaned over and whispered to Patrick, "The rumor circling today is this is only an intermittent ceremony. The Yamacraw already did a vast array of private rituals no white men may witness over the last few days. As part of Tomochichi's last request, he asked to be buried in Savannah to foster peace between our nations. I think he just loved all the white men's praise and attention. It made him a big fish to his people." 4 loud blasts sounded from a cow horn to summon the Yamacraw to the center of the square. 5 elders were holding large feathered ceremonial staffs that had broom ends. They then used the broom/staffs to sweep the crowd into groups. Patrick found it very odd how the tribe elders directed people to sit by pointing their lips. The indentures saw the esteemed Oglethorpe for the first time when the elders allowed the white leader to speak before they would begin their sacred rituals. He wore a formal military uniform with a new white wig. He solemnly walked to the center of the Yamacraw crowd and spoke sincerely to them. Oglethorpe kneeled in front of Tomochichi's wife, Sanuki, and his nephew, Tunahowie, and spoke respectfully. Oglethorpe's friend, Mary Musgrove, translated English to the Yamacraw. She was the widow of a prominent South Carolina Indian trader who traveled with and was befriended by Tomochichi. She was born of mixed blood to a Tuckabaki Lower Creek Indian woman and Edward Griffin. She was married off to John Musgrove to foster peace between the Creek and the English. John met the Coweta headman, Brims, who the English had earlier designated as Emperor, so in the eyes of the English, and at least Brims, he could speak for the other chiefs and headmen. She was held in a position of prominence with her people, and even though the trustees of Savannah did not like her, Oglethorpe adored and trusted her. She was now remarried with her indenture, which was considered scandalous by Savannah upper-class socialites. She translated Oglethorpe's word to the stoic Yamacraw crowd. Tomochichi was a great chief. The council in the sky will welcome him with the pipe of peace. The king and people of Savannah owe him a great debt for all the help he gave us settling this town. Let us not forget his greatness and his wisdom, which help us navigate a treaty with the Lower Creek. He was a great warrior and a noble savage. Patrick was surprised when he eyed Commander Byron Kingsley in the crowd. He grew nervous to know that Muckraker was back in town. The commander rolled his eyes in disgust and disrespect while listening to Oglethorpe's heartfelt speech. The white leader continued. I got to know him and his family well when we traveled to England together back in the Lord's year of 34. He was the toast of England, and His Majesty and King considers him a great loss. Let us not forget the noble work of John Wesley, Benjamin Ingram, Peter Rose in the Salzburg community, and the noble chief. They all worked together to establish the Indian school at Irene to help teach Indians of the Lord and abandon their savage ways. I want to proclaim to all, Yamacraw and Creek, such honored is this great chief that Savannah will forever know his name, and his grave will rest here, undeterred until the end of time. A pyramid will be erected with the inscription in brass, so all generations will know his name and deeds. Oglethorpe bowed to the tribe and sat in an honorary position next to Sanuki and Tunahowie. As Oglethorpe sat down, a line of redcoats in full dress came up and presented arms. They raised their muskets into the air and fired an honorary volley of shots. Heather whispered to her father, "Did they ever find who killed that nice Indian named Ski?" Archibald responded, "I know it had to be John Musgrove's servant named Justice, because his life was taken by Ski's relative named Estichichi. The whole thing smells of scandal, and whenever there's scandal involved, I look no further than Commander Byron Kingsley." His father then warned sternly, "You and your lasses stay far away from that commander. Do you understand?" "Aye, father," she obediently responded. Patrick watched as the honored rituals and sacred ceremonies started. As the Creek tradition insisted, only friends and families could dig the grave. Tomochichi's own family sat and watched while the warriors of the tribe dug. During the digging, the squaws danced and chanted their last goodbyes. This part of the ritual of digging and chanting and dancing took over an hour. To pass the time, Patrick whispered to Archibald, "Why would this savage help the white man bring more white men here?" "The Yamacraw have an enemy tribe in the south who have sided with the Spanish. For fear of extinction, Tomochichi friended the English. When Oglethorpe needed help establishing Savannah, Tomochichi saw the opportunity to win favor for his tribe. It also didn't hurt that Oglethorpe and the trustees stuffed his mouth with gold." He smiled and continued, "As with most savages, he did not keep the gifts for himself, but distributed it to his tribe to reward rank. I also think he was motivated by the fame and respect the white men gave him. He actually liked being referred to as a noble savage." A group of warriors then lifted the coffin Oglethorpe provided for the chief. They used ropes to lower the pine box into the dug hole in the ground. The chants and dancing continued as the casket was lowered. The master blacksmith spoke sarcastically. "If that chief be 97 years aged, like they say he was, then I'm the King of Scotland. No man still be a warrior at his age. Look how young his skin is. I'd guess he's no older than 60. Well, let's depart. We've done enough for king and country today, and I need to be quenching my thirst." Most of the whites were departing, but the natives continued to mourn at the tomb. Patrick looked back as he saw the warriors setting up a pyramid mound of stones over the grave.